I like to say that a lot of things in life are like boosters on a rocket, and they need to get you to 10,000 feet and then they fall off. And then there's some other boosters that get you to 40,000 feet and then they fall off. And it's not that it wasn't meant for you. It was that it was meant to be what it was.
Did you know that each one of us had a ruling planet? And a ruling planet is not your chart ruler or final dispositor. What your ruling planet is your patron saint, your den mother, your corporate sponsor and life coach, all wrapped up into one. Hello, my name is Christopher Renstrom, and I'm your weekly horoscope columnist here on Astrology Hub. And today, I wanted to talk to you about my upcoming workshop, Ruling Planets for Unruly Times. In this 3-week course, you'll learn about your ruling planet and why it's the planet that's always looking out for you, no matter where it is in the sky. You'll also learn about the other planets in your chart as we delve into their meanings through history and myth and art. There are 12 units of lessons in both video and audio format with transcripts, plus an excerpt from my original book, Ruling Planets, published in 2002 and no longer in print. Finally, you may even get a chance to get a live chart reading with me on the Ruling Planets for Unruly Times live Q&A scheduled for June 1st. All of this for $197. What I love about that is that you have this for a lifetime. You can come back and view this course whenever you want, and you can return to it as many times as you need to for reference, to brush up, or just enjoy a journey through the rich lore of the planets. If you're interested, you can enroll at astrologyhub.com/rulingplanets. I can't wait to see you in class.
Hi there. Welcome to your weekly astrological weather. We are absolutely thrilled to have you here and a part of this weekly global astrological discussion. I'm Jamie McGee, an astrologer and one of the hosts here on the Astrology Hub platform. And today I am stepping in for our beautiful fearless leader, Amanda Bull-Walsh. Now, all is well with Amanda. No worries there. Here at Astrology Hub, we are always working to bring you new shows and offerings to this platform. And today Amanda's working on one of those brilliant projects. Now, if you would like to always be in the know of when we release new content or even a weekly show like this one, you definitely want to make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button and the notification bell. All right. So today we will be exploring the astrological influences for the week of May 8th through the 14th. And I could not be more thrilled than to be here with my good friend and colleague on the Astrology Hub's brand new platform, Astrologer Connect, Miss Taylor Shuler. Taylor is an award-winning astrologer and one of OPA's most promising astrologers. She has a master's degree in cross-cultural sustainable business management from the American University of Paris in France and is the current recording secretary for the Organization of Professional Astrology. Welcome, Taylor. It's so good to be here with you.
Thank you, Jamie. I'm so happy to be here with you. It's so great.
Great treat.
Yeah.
So, Taylor, what is going to be the overarching theme that we'll work with as we step into this week? Like, we're post-eclipse, we're getting ready for some more transitions. So what's the idea that we're working with?
So post-eclipse, the energy is like the calm after the storm, I feel like. We're recording this before the eclipse and I can already feel, I'm so tired. I think there's no reason to be tired. I'm so tired. If you were feeling tired last week, feeling tired through the eclipse, I feel like that's really normal, but it's almost like this peace that comes and a realization. And so what I want to say is the theme is almost advice-ish. And it's one of my favorite quotes by Brene Brown, which I say often, and I share it with a lot of my clients, but it really rings true to me. And I feel like the energy this week is just there 100%. And it is strong back, soft front, wild heart. And so it's all about having a backbone, being vulnerable, and then thinking about our dreams. What is it that we want? What is it we desire? And what's holding us back from getting it and claiming it and moving towards it? And eclipses are times of change. this eclipse, whatever we've been feeling, I think is going to strip away all of that. And the energy for this week is certainly supportive of that. It's supportive of silence. It's supportive of comfort. It's supportive of burning away any of the hesitations that have been holding us back and the limitations, certainly, and sort of like stubborn energy or defensiveness of not wanting to change. So I think it's sort of a quiet weekend in many ways because there's not a whole lot of aspects, but it's nice.
Yeah. So one of those times, like, I love it how the universe gives us a little bit of time to process before we step into the next realm of what's coming, because there is some opportunities coming. You know, we have to kind of go through those growing pains to get to the creation. So what are the biggest transits that you have your eye on this week for us to note?
Yeah. So the high level overview, biggest transits of the week. We start out the day before the week starts on Sunday with Venus entering Cancer. Uranus is cazimi the sun. So that means the sun and Uranus are conjunct in the sky. They're in the same spot. And actually Uranus is in the very, very heart of the sun from our perspective. Then we're going to have Mercury making a supportive, friendly sextile aspect to Saturn. So Mercury is in Taurus, Saturn is in Pisces, and that's a very fertile and supportive aspect that I've got my eye on. We're going to have our last quarter moon in Aquarius. So the sun is going to be in Taurus, the moon's going to be in Aquarius. That brings a certain tone and energy to the rest of the week. Then we have Mercury, again, retrograde in Taurus, making a supportive, fertile sextile aspect to Venus in Cancer. Then Venus is going to make a really lovely aspect to Saturn, which is in Pisces. And that kind of rounds out our week. So we've got Mercury, Venus, Saturn, Uranus, the sun, and the moon are going to be the main things that we focus on for this week.
So with the Mercury energy, do you think that's more, how would you see that? Like, we're still revising, we're still getting ready to move into the integration, but we have all these brilliant ideas thanks to Uranus. And is that how you see it? Like, it's just like,
yeah, that's a great question. So Mercury is often connected with communication. And the reason that it's connected with communication is that Mercury is really the vehicle. Mercury is the structure that allows for communication to flow. So it's not actually what you say. That's what you say is really the moon. And, you know, I like to do astrology for businesses and for entrepreneurs. And so I think it's important to point that out if you want to use astrology in that way for your business, to think about Mercury as the vehicle for your content. So what kind of thing are you using? Are you using social media? Are you using snail mail? Whereas the moon is really what you're communicating to the broader audience, to your people, to your ideal client. And so that's how I see Mercury. And Mercury is retrograde. So it's asking us to revisit and revise and rethink and reconsider a lot of the ways in which we communicate. When it's retrograde, it's closer to the earth. So it's pulling focus. And that's why we'll send an email too quickly, right? It's like, it's the email, like the structure of the email that's the problem, not the words that you are saying necessarily, or the fact that you're typing on a keyboard, not necessarily what you wanted to say. And the vehicle becomes somehow, I don't want to say corrupted. That's kind of a negative word, but, you know, it's jolted because it's pulling so much focus and it's really close to us. So that's why when we have Mercury retrograde, things can kind of go awry with technology, certainly. And I think that this is a week, especially with the sun and Uranus being together, where we may see a lot of that technologically prompted glitches, sort of.
yeah.
It's a good opportunity. Like when stuff like that goes wrong, it's a great opportunity to correct it, right? There's an invitation to correct something when things go wrong, or an invitation to slow down. And Mercury in Taurus certainly does want to slow down.
Absolutely. And it's almost like, too, when you have that distraction or when something derails you, the question is, where is the universe trying to get you to focus? Because usually there's a brilliance in that revision. There's something like, even in my past life as a writer, like the revisions where I could really find a story or like an Easter egg and say, okay, that's where I could take this in a new way. So it really is a reward. I know sometimes going back and redoing things are frustrating, or when we have that breakthrough idea, we're like, why didn't I have this before? It's not wasted time at all. It's definitely just helping you kind of find a new vehicle, find a new way to express it. And I love how you said that about the moon, and that's beautiful the way that you frame that. Super helpful. Now, do you have any best practices or tips that we can work with any of these brilliant ideas before we kind of go into how each of the days will look throughout the week? Like if you had, as from a business perspective, because I know you work with a lot of business people and a lot of entrepreneurs reach out to you, even on the new platform, Astrologer Connect. Like, what would be your advice as to a business person or anyone who is kind of in that mayhem of now all the news just dropped. Now the breakthrough came with this eclipse. And I know what happened. Now I'm working on how I respond to it. Like, what would be your tip to work with this kind of energy that we're looking at now?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think there's a lot of different things. One is you could use the moon and the sign that the moon is in and the phase that the moon is in to think about what kind of things that you're going to communicate. And so we'll go through that as the days go by and the moon moves through all the signs. I'll mention what kind of things you might want to say or what kind of reactions you might expect to get. I think that in general, the whole week is inviting us to be very slow and direct and simple in our communication and align with our values. And I think if you are an entrepreneur, you are a business owner, and if this eclipse has been impacting your chart, or that last eclipse that was happening at 29 degrees and 50 minutes of Aries, this might be a time when you're reconsidering things. It's really a turning point, right? That's what eclipses do. Every 6 months, 5.5, 6 months, and then 90 days, that midpoint in between the eclipses, that's where we see these changes and shifts happening. So last year, that last eclipse, then we had that one on May 5th is that last one in Scorpio. And so if you're feeling like you're reconsidering, you're sort of at a turning point, this is when you really slow down and you make it simple and you lean into what am I feeling in my body? And what feels right? And what are my values? And what's holding me back from aligning with that and doing that in my business? Where is the fear? Where is it coming from? And how can I say, I was brave enough to be born into this world. Why don't I just be brave enough to live my life to the fullest? Like, what will I lose? And oftentimes we are afraid of what we're going to lose. But, I like to say that a lot of things in life are like boosters on a rocket. And they need to get you to 10,000 feet and then they fall off. And then there's some other boosters that get you to 40,000 feet and then they fall off. And it's not that it wasn't meant for you. It was that it was meant to be what it was. And then you were meant to continue to go higher. So
beautiful. Yeah. I feel like I've been resonating that a lot with a lot of my clients recently, because especially with Jupiter's getting ready to go in Taurus, but right now he's at that really high peak in Aries. So it kind of feels like you're in like a church with a bunch of candles and only so many matches, and it's windy and you're trying to match this one. You're trying to get this light to go on. When you run out of matches, you're taking one candle to light the other one. And, I love what you're saying, because it kind of speaks to that Jupiter story as we get to this last part of it. Instead of having like 20 ideas or 30 ideas, just kind of narrow it down and like, what is like a legacy goal? Like what flame can you take and kind of carry it in? Because we're going to have a strong Taurus theme, which is very grounded. It's very in the body. It's very much in the moment. And we can really cultivate our garden, whether you're an entrepreneur or whatever you're doing. It doesn't even matter if you're a stay-at-home mom and taking care of your family, or if you're retired and looking at the next adventure. This is a really great time to feel like it's like the noise just kind of comes in. Let's get really quiet, go inside. Yeah. Very totally. Quiet still. Beautiful. All right. So let's take a look at the week. Now, like what kicks off today? We'll start with Monday. Yeah. There was a transit that happened yesterday, but for Monday, what do we have going on? Or you can mention some.
So starting on Monday, we start off with the moon going into Capricorn, but we start off with a void moon for most of that morning. So at about 9:30 a.m. Pacific time, the moon goes into Capricorn. And what Capricorn can bring us is really that big picture. Capricorn moon, especially in a business, there's a strong mentorship signature. There's good energy for manifesting and for discipline. Earth signs, which Capricorn is, it's really concerned with what is tangible. But Capricorn is the last of the earth signs. It's the most mature of the earth signs. So it's sort of been through a lot. It's seen a lot of things. It's the person who is not just a mentor, but can be the manager or the business owner. And so what is it that you're focusing on in terms of manifesting that big picture? Capricorn is also a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs start things. So they can be really good at facilitating change, making that spark, sort of like that spark to start something new, but something new that's really practical at the same time.
All right. Perfect. And okay. And anyway, as we go into Tuesday, we still have this moon, or we'll be able.
Yeah. So we'll have that moon we always have the moon for about 2.5 days, but the next thing that happens is actually the next day. It's going to be Tuesday the 9th. That's when we get that cazimi of Uranus with the sun. Which is pretty exciting. So, a Taurus sun is all about comfort. It's about peace. It's about creativity, nature. It's very fertile, right? So at the beginning of May, we celebrate Beltane or May Day, and that is all about celebrating fertility. And so that's what we want to think about, right? So Taurus and Capricorn together, they're both earth signs. They can be very hardworking, but in a fertile way, where the Capricorn moon is prompting us to do something, to start something. And that Taurus sun is like kind of wanting to stay steady, but is willing to like plod along slowly. So the sun looks at the moon and is like, hey, what are we starting? And the moon is like, all right, like, don't ask me too much. But then Uranus comes in, right? Uranus meets up with the sun. Uranus is changes, like kind of can be sudden changes, but it can be inspiration and innovation and technology. And so how I see the sun and Uranus together is really the sun comes in and it's hot, right? So what does the sun do every morning? It rises, and if there's dew on the grass, the sun burns away the dew, right? With the heat. So the sun does that with the planets too. When a planet is cazimi the sun, it sort of burns away that dew, that like excess stuff we don't need anymore. And in the case of Uranus, I think, especially in Taurus, which can be, it's a fixed sign. So it can be a little stubborn sometimes, wants to hold on to its creature comforts. And the sun comes in, and the dew that it's burning away off of Uranus is about the things that we've been holding on to that we don't want to change, that are holding us back from and making us continue to defend the reasons that we don't want to change, so that we do get that brilliant idea. We do get that inspiration. And then we want to move forward. So we have the eclipse. We're kind of like, stuff's got to change. And now the sun comes and burns away all that stale energy that was holding us back. And I find that whenever you have a new cycle, a new synodic cycle, so synodic cycle is the sun and another planet, or you have a different cycle, like you could have like Mercury and Saturn, for example. Whenever the faster planet meets up with the slower planet and then becomes new again and big again, just like the moon, every time you have a new moon, you have a new opportunity to start a new cycle. You kind of have to wait until that planet was like catching up with the other planet before you can really start something new. And I find that all the time, whether it's in your natal chart or if it's in a mundane chart like we're talking about right now, just what's going on in the sky with the weekly weather. It's when that cycle becomes new, when things really start moving. So we're coming off a full moon, which means we've just released things. We're moving into a moon that's losing light. So at the same time that I'm saying we're starting this new thing with Uranus, we're also still winding down from that eclipse. So we might not feel all of these changes until we hit that new moon in Gemini in another week or so. But yeah, it'll be nice.
Yeah, that's a great way to describe it. And I think the funny thing about, or the awesome thing about Taurus is that change really just does need to be that idea. And no, we're not all Tauruses. We all have Taurus somewhere in our chart. So there's an area in our lives right now where we're kind of going through everything that you're talking about. Like maybe the new cardinal energy is just, okay, I'm ready to change. Like now I know, I understand. Now it's my idea. And once you have it, then you're going to be like that unstoppable bull to make those changes. But you're going to have to do it at your own pace. So it could, it'll take you a couple of days to kind of get things in line, but definitely, I love the visuals for that. Perfect. All right, well, we're only on Tuesday. So that's a big Monday and Tuesday. What does Wednesday look like?
So on Wednesday, the moon's going to be pretty busy, and it's going to kind of keep us on our toes. We're going to have a lot to process. We're going to have a lot to work with. So the moon will oppose Mars. And so there might be some sort of like a difference of opinion on how to take action, how to move forward. We're going to see the moon sextile Neptune. So that's a really helpful aspect for us in terms of dreaming. And we might daydream after whatever happens with the moon opposite Mars and kind of like want to space out a little bit. Like, I got to go for a walk now. And that would be a really nice thing to do when the moon sextiles Neptune. And then we have the moon square Jupiter. And that's sort of like, I can't help but say this, but it's sort of like at the end of the workday, going out for happy hour and just like laughing or going to a comedy show and having a good time, just trying to have fun because it's been a couple days, there's been a lot of big feelings. And so some big feelings might emerge. And then later on, the moon moves into Aquarius and it meets up with Pluto right away. And so we're asked to transform and transmute our emotions and get that energy moving, get that energy in motion, right? Emotions are energy in motion. So make all of that happen. And we might be doing it while we sleep. We might just get tired and need to do it while we sleep. And I think it's really fitting because then we move into this last quarter moon in Aquarius. And when you have a last quarter moon, it means you're going to see half a moon in the sky. And it's not growing in light, it's losing light. And we call it the crisis of consciousness. And I feel like that's very fitting for this week because that's what this week is all about, is thinking about where we've been and where we're going and the discrepancy between the two, right? The gap between the two. And that might not feel so great. It's kind of how we describe pain, is like the gap between those two things. So, but it's like the growing pain. I don't want to say it mean like or scary. It's just, it's processing. It takes energy. It takes work.
Yeah, it's a clarity point too. So you can see, like, even if you feel like you're way off track, the good news is you know what track you're on now. So like, how do we process this and kind of move into a different direction? But yeah, I love how so far this week, it's really about like reaching and releasing simultaneously as we take calm breaths and I love how Wednesday is almost like this emotional reset. Like you had a pattern break. So all this happened in the pattern break and, maybe you have that Mars issue, but it kind of reminds me when you were saying that, I kind of think, when you have like an argument or a disagreement and you like redo it in your head and like, I should have said this, or maybe I should have said it that way. You're able to kind of process both sides of it. But, whatever, I think a good message is whatever we're doing is we're wanting to release. We're wanting to release what's holding us back and go forward. So
absolutely. And I think another thing that's happening that day is Venus is going to sextile the nodes. So it's going to sextile the north node and make a trine, which is a supportive aspect to the south node, which is really helping us. So it might be that your relationships or aligning on your values, all Venus things, help us to get from where we're going to where we need to be. So look out for some people that you're meeting or meet up with friends who are helpful, who might be able to help you along on your road.
Absolutely. Yeah. The suggestions includes, I think it's almost like you kind of look for those psychic days or those intuition days. I think that's one of them because where that's happening, we're going to have a pretty strong transit. It's not really strong, pretty interesting transit in a couple of weeks where Jupiter and the North Node meet at that same point. So it's kind of like you're getting a preview of what's coming. So definitely pay attention to your intuition. Yeah.
And that's what the nodes were when the last eclipse happened. And so it's triggering the eclipse point again. And I know I promised to tell folks what to do, like with the moon and different signs. And so with this Aquarius moon, some of that is just about dwelling in possibility and thinking about what's new and thinking about what's different and really freeing yourself from any assumptions of the past. So that's the message that you want to think about, what you want to communicate and what people are going to be wanting to hear at that time, things that are really new and different.
That's beautiful. I love the pattern interrupt. Now, will we be able to work with that as we move into Thursday too of this week? Is that how you see it?
Absolutely. Okay. So then Thursday of this week, then we have Pallas Athena, which is the goddess of strategy, is making a square aspect, which is challenging to the node. So it's like, hey, we got to change our strategy. That's literally what it means. It means the strategy that got us here is not the strategy that's going to get us out of here. And then later in the day, Mercury retrograde in Taurus makes that supportive sextile aspect to Saturn and Pisces. And that is all about making sure that the vehicle for our communication, the channel for our communication is simple, it's direct, it's patient, going out into nature in order to process, using natural communication, thinking about the simple truths, thinking about natural wisdom, really making sure that we're not withdrawing and that we're leaning into change. And then thinking about what our rules are, what are our limitations, what are our fears with Saturn, and doing the spiritual work, doing the psychic work, being mature, getting serious about our thoughts, and getting serious about thinking about that whole thing of what got us here and what's going to get us out of it. And with Saturn and Pisces, a lot of it is about kindness and humility and charity. So coming into the heart center, coming into the heart chakra, and thinking about how we can be more charitable with our thoughts and with our words and our actions.
Lovely. That's beautiful. It's great advice. It kind of ties up. Don't you love how the week just kind of tells the story? Like it tells you once, it tells you twice. It's kind of like just keep dancing with me. We'll get to where we're going. Sure. So what does the weekend look like? Is it going to be a fun one? Anything?
We need a fun weekend, don't we? So then we've got Friday, which is Venus's day, and we have Mercury sextile Venus on Friday. And I think that's really lovely. So it's Mercury retrograde, and it's making a supportive aspect to Venus in Cancer. And Venus in Cancer is all about relationships and affection, family, home, a lot of intimacy and devotion and these long bonds, thinking about stability, longevity, and people who really remove the fear of forever. So I'm skipping around just a little bit, but later in the day, we're going to get to Venus trine Saturn. And that's a really nice aspect too. And so sometimes I like to look up folks who have this and then think about what their lives were like to get a feeling of it. And Josephine Baker is one of the people who had Saturn and Pisces trine Venus in Cancer. Now, her Venus was also conjunct Neptune, which is sort of like big, big love and like dreaminess and that sort of energy. But another person is Lenny Kravitz. And if you think about the way that they have had relationships in their life, it is that really long devotion. So Josephine Baker was not afraid of saying yes to commitment. She was married several times. I think that she called her family the Rainbow Tribe, and because she adopted children from all over. So her love was just all encompassing. It was like love for anyone, love for our soul partners, whether it was her husband or her 12 children. And then Lenny Kravitz, I mean, I don't know him. He seems cool. I did see him once in like a car in Paris, which is cool. But he, at least in the photos that we see in the news, he's kind of stayed by Lisa Bonet, right? To raise their child together over the years. And that is that long commitment, even though they're not married anymore, through her next relationship and that real familial aspect. So I think it's a very sweet ending to the week and a start to the weekend on Saturday to have these conversations that are silent, that are quiet. Processing in silence is this Mercury retrograde in Taurus in order to really get serious about what we want in the future. Venus trine Saturn is about maturing our relationships. It's like we care so deeply about each other. Is it time to make a commitment? Is it time to take our relationship to the next level? And I think that's really a nice way to start off the weekend. It might feel a little intense, right? Saturn is about fear. When you're going to take that next step in a relationship, it can be really scary, but it's all for the best. If you face the fear, you can then get the best out of it, right?
Oh my God, absolutely. Those are perfect examples of how you can work with that energy, because it definitely is. Anytime you look at marriage or commitment or any kind of long-term relationship, I always look for Venus and Saturn together, because it really is like you have to have the love, but you have to have the work. And that speaks to all these changes that we have to make. We have to love it enough to let it go and love it enough to reach for what's coming and to find those answers inside so we can manifest them outside. That's perfect. Is there anything else about the weekend? What about anything about Sunday or any way we're going to tie up the week before we lead into the next part of it?
So the last thing, on the 14th, we get Mercury stationing direct. So congratulations, you've made it through Mercury retrograde. It may feel kind of intense. That station does pull a lot of focus. It does want us to slow down, but it means that we've made it through. And from here on out, it's just sort of revisiting and cleaning up that old stuff. So I think it's a great way to end the weekend.
Definitely. We'll be able to integrate, and that's kind of how the whole week's been ending. Like just kind of slow down and let's stop. No, we've seen it. We've seen it twice. Now we're going to integrate it. So perfect. All right, Taylor, I'm going to do my best to summarize like the masterful Amanda Pool-Walsh. I don't know that I will reach that level, but I'm going to try because you had so much brilliance. I couldn't even write. You should see my chicken scratch over here. It's so bad. All right. And I have a doctor's handwriting, even though I was an author. I should be better at this. So your overall theme for the week is kind of like the calm after the storm. I think you put it more lyrically than that. If you could sum up the calm, how would you say the theme is one more time after we've talked about it?
So what I was saying at first was that it's a strong back, soft front, wild heart. And there's a lot of silence and a lot of processing that's going on in order to help us be vulnerable and be brave and step into our best lives and our best selves in alignment with our values and what's most important for us so that we can go into the future that is waiting for us.
Perfect. And I think that summarizes everything. Now, we will kick off the week with a Capricorn moon. So there's a lot of cardinal energy, but at the same time, we're still kind of processing and wrapping up what was. Like we're kind of thinking about, this is a great idea, but in order to do that, I have to process it in this way. But we roll into Tuesday, still under that Capricorn cardinal energy. We have the sun meeting with Uranus. So this is beautiful breakthrough ideas. Like you're talking about a brand new story that's starting up, but it may take us a couple of days to get off the ground because we're working with Taurus energy, right? Where it takes us a little bit. We have to make it our idea. Kind of have to say, okay, I'm going to hold it with an open hand. If it's mine, it stays. If it's not, it goes. And then as we move into Wednesday and Thursday, there's a little bit of processing energy, but we switch into a different moon. We have that Aquarius moon, which is innovative new ideas. And then coming into the weekend, we have a lot of great ideas that we can start. Even in that 10 and 11, I missed this note. We're going to really look for some clues from the universe, some hints or insights about what is to come, what opportunity or fated moments that we have like around the corner, as Jupiter switches into this same area of Taurus not too long from now. And then on the weekend, we have Mercury. He's getting ready to slow down. He's getting ready to stop his retrograde, but he'll be sextiling Saturn, giving us some great ideas. And then we have Venus meeting up with Saturn. It's all about commitment and that passion and, what we love. And then as we enter the weekend, Mercury comes out of his retrograde. So that could be a little bit of a rocky communication, but hopefully it'll all settle before we step into the next week. But overall, the message is to take your time, be ready to release and reach at the same time, because there's a lot of brilliant ideas now that all of that eclipse energy has kind of settled, or at least we know what the eclipse energy is. And now we can react to what we have. We're kind of getting out of the weeds with it. Such a great forecast, Taylor. Thank you so much. And, if you guys are just in love with Taylor like I am, and you want to connect with her, you can definitely find her on the brand new platform, Astrologer Connect. And you go right to Taylor by going to astrologyhub.com/Taylor Connect. Are you loving the platform, Taylor? Are you loving connecting with you?
It is so much fun. And I just love all of the folks that I talk to get a chance to have the privilege and the pleasure of reading their charts. So I think it's such a wonderful way to get a reading and connect with everyone. So
absolutely amazing. Yeah, I love it. So clean and easy to kind of connect with someone, and you get to see faces and work with people that you know, and it's this community. It's brilliant. If you guys haven't checked out that platform, you definitely need to. And if you haven't met Taylor one-on-one, I can even tell you what you're missing there. It's just so great. But I want to thank you for being here with us, Taylor, today. And I want to thank all of you for being part of our community and for making astrology a part of your life. And we will definitely catch you on the next episode. A great one.